The cry no one was meant to hear. Robert Miller never took the forest trail on Saturdays. It was longer, quieter, and usually empty. But that morning, Emma insisted, "Please, Dad." His 8-year-old daughter said, gripping his hand as they stood near the trail entrance. "Just one walk. You promised." Robert sighed, then smiled. "All right, one walk, then soccer practice." Since his wife passed away 3 years ago, promises mattered more than anything. Emma was his whole world now. Every laugh, every request, every small moment felt fragile, like something that could disappear if he didn't protect it. The woods welcomed them with silence. Tall trees stretched upward, their leaves barely moving. Sunlight slipped through the branches in thin golden lines, painting the dirt path ahead. Emma skipped forward, humming to herself, collecting fallen leaves and pinnacones like tiny treasures. Robert followed a few steps behind, watching her closely. Always watching. That's when he heard it. At first, he thought it was his imagination. A faint sound, almost nothing. He stopped walking. The sound came again. Soft, broken, like a whisper trapped beneath the earth. "Emma," Robert said quietly. "Come here." She turned, confused. "What's wrong? Do you hear that?" They stood still. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Then there it was again, a muffled cry. Robert's stomach tightened. His instinct screamed that something was wrong. "Stay close," he told Emma, gripping her hand as he stepped off the trail. The sound grew clearer as they pushed through the bushes. Branches scratched his arms. Dry leaves crunched beneath his boots. Then he saw it. Fresh dirt, a patch of ground that didn't belong. The soil looked recently disturbed, darker than the rest, as if someone had rushed or panicked. Robert's heart began to race. "Dad," Emma whispered, "why is the ground broken?" Before he could answer, the sound came again, louder now. "Help!" It was weak, desperate, and it was coming from under the ground. Robert dropped to his knees. "Oh my God," he whispered. He pressed his ear closer to the dirt. There was no mistake now. Someone was buried alive. "Emma," he said urgently, forcing calm into his voice. "I need you to run back to the trail and call 911. Tell them someone is trapped underground." Emma's eyes widened with fear. "What about you?" "I'll stay right here." "Go, now." She hesitated for half a second, then turned and ran. Robert began digging with his hands. The dirt was packed tight. His fingers burned as he clawed at the soil, throwing it aside as fast as he could. Rocks cut into his skin. Roots tangled around his wrists. "Hold on," he shouted. "I'm here." The dirt finally gave way. A small opening appeared. Then a hand broke through. Pale, shaking, covered in dirt. Robert sucked in a sharp breath. "I've got you," he said, grabbing the hand firmly. "You're not alone." He dug wider, ignoring the pain, ignoring the blood on his hands. The hole revealed a woman's face. Her blonde hair was matted with mud. Her lips trembled as she gasped for air. Tears streamed down her cheeks, mixing with the dirt. "Please," she cried, "please. Don't leave me." "I won't," Robert promised. "I swear." With one final push, he pulled her up and out of the shallow grave. She collapsed onto the forest floor, coughing violently, clutching the earth as if afraid it might swallow her again. Robert wrapped his jacket around her shoulders. "You're safe now," he said. Though his own voice was shaking, she looked at him with eyes full of terror. "No," she whispered, "I'm not." Before Robert could ask what she meant, she leaned closer, so close he could barely hear her. And what she whispered next made his blood run cold. "He's coming back." The woman who couldn't be found. Robert felt the woman's grip tighten around his arm. "He's coming back," she whispered again, her voice barely louder than the wind. "Who?" Robert asked, scanning the trees. Her eyes darted wildly. "The man who buried me." A chill crawled up Robert's spine. "How long ago?" he asked. "I don't know," she said, shaking. "It was dark. I lost track of time." Sirens echoed faintly in the distance. Emma must have reached the trail. Relief washed over him, but it didn't last. The woman suddenly tried to stand. "No," she said urgently. "I can't be here when they arrive." "Wait, what?" Robert said. "You were almost killed." You need help. She grabbed his sleeve with surprising strength. You don't understand. If they find me, he'll know I survived. Robert frowned. The police can protect you. She shook her head slowly, not from him. Before he could respond, she leaned in again, her lips brushing his ear. My name isn't supposed to exist anymore. Robert froze. What do you mean? Footsteps approached through the trees. Dad. Emma's voice called out. The police are coming. The woman's face drained of color. She backed away. I can't be seen. Then she did something Robert would never forget. She pulled a ring from her finger. A large diamond. Flawless. The kind Robert had only seen behind bulletproof glass. She pressed it into his palm. If anything happens to me, she said, this will prove I'm telling the truth. Truth about what? He asked. But she was already moving, staggering deeper into the woods. Wait, Robert shouted. Too late. By the time the police arrived, the woman was gone. The investigation lasted hours. Officers searched the forest. Dogs were brought in. The disturbed earth was photographed, marked, and sealed as evidence. But there was no victim, only fingerprints, and a shallow grave. Are you sure you didn't imagine her? One officer asked gently. Robert clenched his jaw. I pulled her out of the ground. Emma nodded. I saw her. Still, without the woman, there was little they could do. When they finally left, the forest felt darker than before. That night, Robert couldn't sleep. The ring sat on his kitchen table, catching the light every time he walked past. He tried to convince himself it was fake, but deep down, he knew better. The next morning, curiosity won. He took the ring to a jeweler. The man examined it for less than 10 seconds before his expression changed. Sir, the jeweler said. Carefully, do you know what this is? A ring, Robert replied. The jeweler swallowed. This belongs to Catherine Whitmore. Robert blinked. Who? The jeweler lowered his voice. One of the richest women in the country. Real estate, tech, private equity worth billions. Robert's heart pounded. That's impossible. She disappeared 3 days ago. The jeweler continued. National news. Massive search. Robert felt the room spin. The woman he pulled from the ground wasn't just anyone. She was a millionaire. No more than that. She was supposed to be dead. That evening, a black SUV stopped outside Robert's house. 2 men in dark suits stepped out. Robert Miller, one asked. Yes, we need to talk. They showed badges, not police. Private security. You were seen in the forest yesterday, the man said, with a missing woman. Robert hesitated. I don't know where she is. The second man leaned closer. That's a problem. They searched his house. When they found the ring, everything changed. The men exchanged glances. She trusted you, one said quietly. Trusted me for what? Robert asked. Before they answered, a third man entered the room. Older, calm, dangerous. I buried her, the man said flatly. Robert's blood ran cold. She wasn't supposed to survive. The man continued. And now you're involved. Emma gasped. Robert stepped in front of his daughter. You won't touch her. The man smiled. Oh, I won't need to. He leaned in, his voice almost kind. You'll do exactly what we say, or you'll disappear too. The whisper that changed their lives forever. Robert's mind raced as the man who buried Victoria, or Catherine, as he now understood, loomed before him. His daughter Emma clutched his hand tightly. Fear and anger coursed through every fiber of his being. You'll do exactly what we say, the man repeated, voice cold. Or you'll disappear too. Robert squared his shoulders. You don't scare me. I saved her life. I won't let you hurt her. The man chuckled. A soft, chilling sound. Heroism comes with a price, Mr. Miller. You'll see. Meanwhile, Victoria, free but shaken, was already on a call with authorities she could finally trust. Her husband's betrayal was more than personal. It was criminal, premeditated. Life insurance, kidnapping, nearly murder, everything meticulously planned. But she had lived because of Robert, because of Emma. Back in Robert's modest living room, the threat lingered, but Robert didn't panic. He had faced desperation before. He had seen the fragility of life and understood what mattered. Most. He only had to buy a few minutes, just enough for help to arrive. Sirens sounded again. This time, closer. The private security men looked around, panic flickering across their faces. Victoria had called the authorities, and local police, along with FBI agents, were converging on the neighborhood. The would-be kidnapper's expression changed from confidence to fury. "You think you can outsmart me?" he growled. Robert held Emma closer, whispering, "It's going to be okay, just stay behind me." Within moments, lights flashed, engines roared. And the man who had tried to kill Victoria found himself handcuffed. Robert exhaled, his legs trembling. Emma's small arms clung to him, but she smiled through tears. Victoria arrived moments later, escorted by agents. She knelt beside Robert and Emma. Tears streamed down her face, but there was gratitude, relief, and something deeper, trust. "You saved my life," Victoria said, her voice breaking. "I was buried, Robert. I was meant to be gone, and you pulled me out." Without hesitation, Robert shook his head. "I didn't do it for anything, just because it was right," Emma piped up, her small voice carrying a conviction no one could ignore. "I heard her first. That's why Dad stopped." Victoria looked at the little girl in the pink hoodie, and something cracked in her expression. Hope. A glimpse of family she thought she'd lost forever. "Thank you, Emma," she whispered, voice trembling. "You heard me when no one else did. You saved me too." Days later, Victoria invited Robert and Emma to her estate. Rolling lawns, fountains, and a house so grand it seemed to touch sky. Emma pressed her face against the window in awe. Robert hesitated at the entrance, unsure he belonged, but Victoria's warmth eased the tension. Inside, they sat in a sunroom bathed in light. Victoria looked different, cleaned up, composed, but her eyes retained a haunted depth. "I've been thinking," she began softly. "I've had everything money can buy, but I've never had what you have." "What's that?" Robert asked. "Family, real love, trust, the kind you and Emma share, the kind you showed me in the forest." Robert swallowed hard, memories of Sarah flooding back. The struggles, the late nights, the constant worry, but also the joy of raising Emma. All the moments felt vindicated in that one statement. Victoria continued, "I want to give you something to show my gratitude. Something practical, not just words." She handed Robert an envelope. Robert's hands shook as he opened it. Inside was a check enough to pay off debts, secure Emma's education, maybe even live a life without constant worry. But Robert's eyes weren't on the money. "I can't accept this," he said gently. "I didn't save you for money." Victoria smiled through tears. "Exactly why you should have it." Emma tugged his sleeve. "Dad, maybe we could help her too, be her friends." Victoria laughed, a sound light enough to fill the room. "Friends are the family we choose," she said, kneeling to Emma's level. "And you've given me that." Over the following months, Victoria became part of their lives, not as a benefactor, but as someone who had been saved and had learned to trust again. She attended Emma's soccer games, shared meals at their modest kitchen table, and volunteered at the local women's shelter with them. The haunted expression faded, replaced by laughter, purpose, and connection. Robert and Victoria shared long talks about life, loss, and what really mattered. Emma, the catalyst of it all, watched closely, learning firsthand the power of kindness and courage. One quiet evening, as fireflies flickered across the back porch and Emma chased them, Victoria spoke softly. "Do you know what you really gave me that day?" Robert shook his head. "Hope." She smiled. "Hope? Yes, but also trust. Faith that not everyone in the world wants something from me. That people can be good, even when it costs them." Robert looked at Emma, then Victoria. "And you've given us something too," he said. "What's that?" Victoria asked. "You've shown Emma that helping people matters," Robert said. "That kindness is never wasted, even when it seems darkest. There's always light." Victoria smiled, a genuine warmth now radiating from her. Robert held Emma close, Both father and daughter had learned a life lesson far greater than money or wealth. As the fireflies danced and Emma's laughter filled the air, Robert realized something profound. He had entered those woods with nothing but love for his daughter. He had left with a reminder that the most valuable things in life, trust, courage, kindness, and connection, cannot be buried. They cannot be bought. They can only be given freely, from one broken heart to another, until something beautiful grows. And in that quiet moment, surrounded by two people whose lives had changed forever, Robert understood that humanity, the simple, unselfish acts of caring, was worth more than anything money could ever buy.